So, super exciting. Today I managed to get in my first flight on the Lattice. So it's a Bogdanfly, Lattice 16. Only had it a few days. The weather here is terrible. It's been raining non-stop. Yesterday we had 75 k's an hour, gusting to 100 k's an hour up in the mountains, so no flying. But this morning it stopped raining and I looked at the weather radar and figured I had an hour or two before it started again. And so went to the LZ, parked my car there, hiked up the hill and flew. I went out way too hard for some guy in his 50s who's of average fitness and blew up about halfway up the hill. So my dream of getting there in like 35 or 40 minutes didn't pan out. But still, 50 minutes or so, which is, decent considering I'm carrying all my gear and I messed up my pace. It's a really nice pack to carry. I went for a 1.5 hour long trail run with it yesterday. It wasn't flyable, but I figured I'd run with the pack and see what it's like. It sits beautifully. Well done to Air Design for designing this. This is like it's a high quality running pack. If I was just comparing it to running packs, the fact that you can fit a paraglider, a harness, a reserve parachute, your clothes, food, water, and your helmet and cameras and Varios and everything else in it as well is just mind-blowing. So I'm very happy with this pack. So not really a review of the pack as such, but it's pretty awesome. So getting ready, initially I tried to put the harness on over the top of the pack, and then when you go to pull the harness up, it catches on the pack, and that didn't work. So plan B, I took the pack off, put the harness on, and then put the pack on over the top of it. That worked great. Here you can see me getting ready. It's about an 8k an hour tailwind coming through the trees. Maybe you can see in the prayer flags at the back. But I've practiced ground handling with this and taking off in a tailwind, and the thing comes up so easy. I think really the point at which you couldn't take off in a tailwind would be when the wind is so strong that it's blowing the wing down the hill towards you. And even then, I suspect putting a couple of rocks onto it to hold it in place would work. So I decided to do a forward launch. The thing comes up so predictably and reliably. What could possibly go wrong? And the wind coming through the back isn't strong enough for me to be worried about rotor or downdrafts or anything as well. So it's kind of nil windy in terms of the flying conditions. I'm not expecting there to be strong winds. So the wing is just super easy to take off with and inflate. As you see now, as soon as I start my run, and I'm just holding on to the A's in a standard forward launch configuration. As soon as I start my run, bang, it comes straight up. Out of habit, I just felt a little bit of pressure on the brakes, but it doesn't feel like it wants to shoot forwards. As I'm able to test it more, I will do some tests and see what happens if I take off without any brake input at all, whether or not I can deliberately try and over accelerate it and make it frontal, because that's a good thing to know. But these wings tend to have very low inertia, and so they don't often tend to do that. I didn't bother to use the speed system on this flight. I'm just feeling what the wing is like. The air was pretty neutral. There's a few patches I go through here where it feels a little bit buoyant, and I turn, and the Vario went from a strong sync tone to a slight lift-seeking tone, but I didn't find anywhere where I could climb, and honestly, this flight was really just about getting a feel for the wing in the air, making sure I've got everything connected correctly, and seeing what the wing is like to land. So it feels like a super lightweight wing. So for me, the difference between lighter weight wings and heavier weight wings when you're flying is that the lightweight wings move around a lot more, and this is like a lightweight wing on steroids. So even though the air was pretty stable, I could really feel the wing moving around by itself. It might feel a bit unnatural if you're used to flying heavier gear, but it feels very reassuring to me. My experience with lightweight wings has always been that they do a lot of the work for you, and then when something does happen, it's not as dramatic as it is when you have a lot of weight and inertia making it want to dive hard in front of you. You've got to really do something wrong. So the wing felt very safe. I'm flying it, as you can see, pretty much with no brake on the trailing edge at all. My understanding with these wings is you obviously still need to brake the dive if it gets in front of you, and you can also adjust your angle of attack to active fly the wing, but you obviously don't need to keep the wing pressurized by trying to maintain pressure on the trailing edge. And for maximum performance and speed, you can just let it go. So as you can see, I've overlaid the telemetry from the flight on here because it's GPS speeds. I can't guarantee that these speeds are 100% accurate all the time because they're going to be affected by the wind speed. There's probably wind coming from behind the hills, so maybe the direction I'm facing now is sort of like a southwesty sort of a direction, and maybe it's 8 to 10 kilometers an hour. So perhaps as I turn here and as I go in different directions, we'll see the speed change and we'll be able to gather something from it. So the other wing I've got, which is in this size, is a Viola 14. And so that's actually a 14 meters projected, which is the same as the Lattice, same size. And flying them, I actually think the Lattice feels more floaty to me so far. I feel like with the Viola, I am coming down quicker. So I'm almost thinking that the glide ratio on the Lattice is better, but after one flight, I can't guarantee that. The Lattice has 1.1 more aspect ratio when you compare the two, so it is in theory a higher aspect ratio wing, which would in theory have a better glide ratio, but it's a single surface, so everything goes out the window. So anyway, so what I've learnt today is it's a really lovely, playful feeling wing. It's just, there's absolutely instant response when you can feel it through the brake handles when you're steering it. I didn't do anything exciting here because on my first flight I'm always focused on safe landing, getting a feel for the wing. I really like more calm air and not doing anything radical because the wing is talking to me the whole time and I can feel what's going on. So the wing was super confidence inspiring. It feels to me like a low B wing. That would really be how I describe the feeling of it. Perhaps even like an A wing, but certainly a low B wing. So very low pilot demands in these conditions. The super interesting thing will be, of course, when I fly it in thermic conditions and when it's really rough and when I start getting collapses or when it's getting knocked back by updrafts and thermal gusts and turbulence, to see how it behaves. Because the biggest complaint I hear from everybody about single surface wings is that they can't glide into wind and that their forward speed and their glide performance is absolutely destroyed in rough air, turbulent air. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is flying this thing in turbulent air to see how much of a handful it is, and I'm expecting it to be no work at all. I think it will just look after itself, but also to see how much loss of performance there is. And I'm also going to have to jump on the speed system next time to see how it performs, but this time I really just wanted to try and get a baseline for my telemetry to see how it actually behaves in what I would consider to be pretty stable and calm conditions. So a little bit of instability, but no banging thermals or anything, and a little bit of a breeze, but no strong winds and no real turbulence or anything. So landing it was super easy. I came in hands up, and as I got to the point where I naturally would have rounded out and flared, I round out. You see I just engaged the C's a tiny little bit and then let it go. It was a completely normal landing on a smaller wing. It didn't feel super fast or anything, and very easy to keep the wing flying, and run over to my car and then drop the wing down so I can pack it up. So in terms of pilot demands, this is a very, very low pilot demand wing, which is interesting because the Violo in the same size has a C rating, because actually it definitely feels more dynamic in the sense that it requires more finesse to control it, whereas this feels like it absorbs pretty much everything and it's easier to fly. So yeah, a fantastic first flight. Nothing exciting, sorry, but once the weather improves, I'll be out there again, and there will be more updates.